I feel that it worked out really well, even though at the time I think Gene hadn't quite finished his dissertation when he was hired, but it all fell into place and we had offices side by side for about 20 years and it was a wonderful experience. So now I will turn my time over to the next person, whoever that may be.
That's me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be chairing this morning's panel. And I'll begin by thanking my colleagues on the planning group, Sherry Fowler, Melissa McCormick, Laura Mueller, and to thank everyone at University of Wisconsin-Madison for all their help along the way. Most of all, I'd like to thank Gene for his many contributions to the field. I'll say a little bit more later, but I think we all agree that he has been a warm and generous mentor to many, many of us, and his leadership in the field has been truly transformative. And it's great that we have this chance to come together today to celebrate Gene. When we started to think about this event, we realized that we could easily fill many hours talking about Gene and Gene's work. And of course, we regretted that we couldn't be together in person. Thinking about Zoom fatigue and about the time differences, we decided to ask our speakers to keep their remarks rather brief, each of us to speak about one piece of Gene's scholarship that's been important to us, and to also share a memory. So this morning, each of our three speakers will consider and respond to some dimension of Gene's work in their comments, and we have each been given approximately 7 minutes. I will go ahead and introduce all three speakers now. In the interest of time, I'm going to keep these introductions brief. Our first speaker will be Professor Shimao Arata, Professor of Japanese Art History at Gakushuin University. Professor Shimao is one of the world's leading experts on Muromachi period ink painting with an extensive publication record of books and articles on Sesshu and many others. He will speak today on the topic of the Kano myth and the myth of Sesshu. Second up is Professor Sherry Fowler from the University of Kansas with a talk on Hell's Bells and Mirrors. Professor Fowler is a specialist in Heian-era Buddhist arts, known for her books on Muroji and the Sixth Canon, and she has also written on a wide array of other subjects, including bells, prints, and tattoos. Our final speaker will be Professor Melissa McCormick from Harvard University. Professor McCormick has published widely on painting themes. Her first book on Tosa Mitsunobu radically changed the way we look at small scrolls, and her exhibition on the tale of Genji at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 2019 likewise transformed how we think and look at one of the most important subjects in Japanese culture. Her talk is entitled A Portrait of the Artist in Medieval Japan. If you have questions or comments for our speakers, please share those in the chat box. And Professor Shimao, please take it away.
Thank you for kind introduction, and good morning and afternoon and evening. It is 10 o'clock in Japan. And I first met Gene in 1988, over 30 years ago, when I was on sabbatical and conducting research at UC Berkeley for 6 months. Gene was a graduate student, but older than his teacher, Mirviss Chair, one of my best friends in the US and a young professor at that time. Gene looked more like a professor. And he kindly helped me with academic English. We read Michael Baxendall's The Limewood Sculptors of Renaissance Germany together, and we discussed various topics. The most impressive thing was an extra private seminar by Professor William Mackerel, which Gene kindly arranged for me. There were only 3 of us, and the aim was to read medieval sources written in Kanbu style, like Gyokuyo, Sanetaka Koki, and Azumakaga. It was a sort of strange international combination in which one Japanese learns to read a Japanese-style Chinese text in English with an American student and an American teacher in California. Though my English did not improve, it is still awful, as you are hearing now. And Professor Mackerel was so generous, and with Gene's help, I really enjoyed this class and learned much more than just how to read Kanbu. And it was just the age of so-called new art history. A way of deconstruction finally flew into the realm of art, and UC Berkeley seemed to be one center of that academic movement. Svetlana Alpas was there, Michael Baxendall to half-year lecture, and TJ Craig had just moved from Harvard. Basically, it was a Eurocentric academic phenomenon, but it was so stimulating, and it prompted us to ask new questions and to adopt new methods even in the study of Japanese art history. Gene's essay, Honchogashi and the Kano Myth, published in 1994, is one of the symbolic articles of this new wave. In the Honchogashi, Kano Eno describes a story that Gene called the Kano Myth, in which Kano Motonobu combined Yamato-e, Japanese-style painting by the Tosa family, and the Kanga, Chinese-style painting by Seishu, to develop a new style that synthesized the two. However, looking over extant works by members of the Tosa school and by Seishu, this theory applies only to a limited number of their painting. They ignore the variety and the change of works to make up an image of Motonobu as a larger-than-life figure in order to supersede old patterns of authority. As a result, a variety of paintings were kicked out of the field of vision of art history. Reading this article, I found that Jin and I were headed in the same direction. After I got back to Japan, I started to reconsider the myth of Seishu and the problem of Wakan, or the relationship between notions of China and Japan. And what I criticized was the discourse on Seishu in Honchougashi, the same text, and how it conceals the actual situation of the painter. The problem was a sort of simple one. The historical discourse on Japanese painting in Muromachi period was still being based on the Honchougashi compiled in 17th century. Jin insisted that it was time to give a new consideration to the range and variety of Japanese painting apart from teleological construction. According to this, what I had done was just put a painter's issue back into the historical and social context of 15th century. I do not remember clearly, but I think discussions with Jin in Berkeley provided me a certain base for my study. I want to thank Jin for this, and also I want to add that I love Jin's dark humor. After over 25 years, we have experienced the lights and shadows of postmodernism. The whole world is now entering a new stage with COVID-19, and we got to be old men, but there is no retirement age in academic research. Jin, これからも相変わらず元気で頑張ってください. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was fabulous. Sherry, I don't know how you're going to follow that up, but please give it a whirl.
Well, we'll see. Okay. I'm delighted to join the event today. I'm going to read this because otherwise I'll get off the track and never come back. As we reflect upon Jin's contributions to our field, I will address two different objects of ritual equipment in Japan that are both made of metal, the mirror and the bell. Both have connections to hell, which might not seem appropriate subject for a retirement party, but believe me, it is. These objects and their representations were made for the positive purpose of aiding escape from hell. My favorite piece of Jin's scholarship is his article narrating the salvation of the elite, the Jofukuji paintings and the 10 Kings, in which he traced the relationship of a set of 10 Kings scrolls painted by Tosa Mitsunobu in 1489 to a prototype from the Kyoto temple Nison-in. In the paintings, the deceased appears before a judge at significant intervals after death to determine the next incarnation. As Jin explained, these sets of paintings were often made in advance of a patron's demise, in a practice called gyakushu, or pre-mortem rites. This not only pleases the judges, but the merit generated from commissioning sets of 10 Kings paintings is 7 times more effective if the arrangements are made before one passes. In this way, it's like getting your own life insurance policy or planning for retirement. Don't put these off. The most prominent among the 10 Kings is the 5th king, Emma, who comes to stand in for the whole group, especially in 3-dimensional representation. Years ago, I invited Jin to give a talk at the University of Kansas, and I was delighted when he told me his topic was the karma mirror in Japan. The mirror is one of King Enma's instruments of justice that appears in his court. When King Enma's minions haul the deceased up before the karma mirror, they're forced to watch reflections of their past deeds. These scenes are usually horrible, like harming a monk, setting fire to a pagoda, or torturing an animal. Like the karma mirror, the temple bell is another object in Buddhism that traverses the worlds between the living and dead. Most Japanese Buddhist temples have a large bronze bell with a sound so deep it's believed to penetrate all the way into hell to relieve the beings suffering there. I have a book project on the travels of Buddhist bells in Japan, both worldly and otherworldly. I'll share one story. The Jodo school temple Genkakuji in Tokyo was and is well known as a place to pray to Enma, monthly on the 16th, which incidentally is today. This Enma is known as Konyaku. He likes Konyaku because it looks like tongues. Enma is believed to pull out the tongues of liars, so it's a good idea to bribe him with his favorite snack before seeing him in court. The Genkakuji bell is special It's dated to 1690 and has multiple experiences of different kinds of hell on earth. This bell not only survived a devastating fire of 1844, but also the Tokyo 1923 earthquake. By 1937, Genkakuji had still not replaced its bell tower and decided to donate its bell to the newly established temple in Saipan called Nanyoji, literally Temple of the South Sea. Saipan is some 2,600 kilometers south of Japan. The bell was dedicated in 1937 in order that its sound would comfort those who were dying and suffering in the Sino-Japanese War, which had just begun. A few years later, in 1944, over 55,000 lives were lost in the 3-week Battle of Saipan before the few remaining Japanese soldiers surrendered to Allied forces. Nanyoji was located in Saipan's capital city, Garapan, which was bombarded by U.S. Navy battleships. Nearly all surviving Japanese residents of Saipan were repatriated after the war, but not the bell. A POW reported that the bell had survived the island's bombing intact. Because the bell was the only thing remaining from Nanyoji, repatriates petitioned to have it sent back to Tokyo to build a memorial. The petition was rejected because the U.S. occupation forces claimed it would be unfair to American taxpayers. The bell's location remained unknown until 1965, when a Japanese woman spotted it in a junkyard in Odessa, Texas, and read the inscription. She wrote a letter to the Japanese Ministry of Education to inform the temple, but the junkyard suddenly sold the bell and no action was taken. In 1973, the Genkakuji abbot contacted Odessa city office and learned that the bell had gone to Oakland, California, which is now owned by a maritime supplier, Donald V. Clare. Letters written from Japan pleaded for the bell's return, but no reply came. Clare had a large collection of artifacts, which he intended to use in a maritime museum, but the plan failed, so he sold everything, including the bell, to an auction house. Advocates from the Buddhist Church of America raised funds for the bell's return and convinced Clare to buy it back to donate to the temple. Now the bell is safely back at Genkakuji, where its mission to comfort the war dead has been reinstated, and it is praised because its bullet holes and battle scars do not dampen its tone. Returning to the mirror, as we have seen, it usually reflects onlookers' past deeds, terrible ones. A clear mirror is best because it shows an absence of sin, but occasionally images of good deeds appear. Imagine for a moment if we had a picture of Jean looking into the karma mirror. We would see many, many great deeds, such as the generosity he's shown students and colleagues, his role in founding JAHF, manuscripts he's reviewed, all the tenure and promotion cases he's helped with. In closing, I'd like to offer my heartfelt thanks for everything Jean has done to help me personally, as well as the field in Japanese art history. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Wow. Melissa, would you like to get started?
Thank you. So hello. Like many of my colleagues, I've always viewed Jean as a kind of scholarly soulmate, someone similarly fascinated by 15th and 16th century Japan and that period's relative abundance of surviving documents and diaries and artworks, which open a unique window onto history. Jean's book, The Practices of Painting in Japan, 1475 to 1500, published just about 20 years ago, gathers and interprets some of the most important references from those rich historical sources. He gives us a detailed account of the social institutions, interpersonal relationships, and material processes of art making in the Muromachi period. Limited to a 25-year span, the study consists of numerous microhistories, both textured and nuanced. Through this method, the book takes a strong stand against the writing of grand narratives and sweeping histories that hinge upon the constructed persona of celebrated artists to explain Japanese art history. The work is deconstructionist 1990s Berkeley Jean at his best, offering a path forward from postmodernism by combining historical research with Bourdieu's concept of habitus and theories of social practice. The portrait of the artist that we get from Jean's book is a decentered one, a kind of anti-Joycean portrait of the artist. True to the tenor of the historical documents at his disposal, there is no projected imagining of the artist's subjectivity or interiority, no grappling of his sense of identity vis-a-vis his predecessors and his anxiety of influence. Instead, we have a remedy for the over-privileging of notions of artistic individuality that can warp interpretations of the pre-modern past. And true to his deconstructionist roots, roots, Jean lays bare the relational nature of language and meaning. He investigates the medieval usage of terms, but refuses to reify definitions, genres, and categories. Take his treatment of portraiture, for example, where he parses the numerous words for a portrait and describes their nuances, but shows how usage was determined by what he calls psychological orientation. As he shows, a single actor might refer to the same portrait by a different term, depending on their frame of mind, or the relationship of the painting to a different anticipated audience. Painting categories, as Jean shows, are thus relational and situational. And in Jean's analysis of the painting you see here, long described as being a portrait of the Ashikaga shogun Yoshimasa, his words suggesting the problematic nature of identity and the ultimate unknowability of the sitter of this portrait would prove prescient. He says of this painting, like many surviving portraits deprived today of its core of recognizable likeness, it is a hollow image that opens itself to explanation more readily as the product of general circumstances and practices than as a particular act of representation. 12 years after Jean's book, in 2012, the scholar Ochiai Noriaki argued that indeed this portrait is not the shogun Yoshimasa, but more likely, though not certain, a courtier by the name of Toin Sanehiro. In the final analysis, then, Jean's method of questioning language and meaning and leaning into and examining what might in other contexts be thought of as cultural constraints remains as valuable as ever. In terms of my own work, which we were also tasked with incorporating into the presentation, my dissertation on Tosa Mitsunobu and medieval small scrolls, completed the same year as Jean's book, interrogated the meaning and shifting nuances of emaki terms, and it critiqued biases that scholars had brought to the diminutive or the prefix ko or small. I too viewed contemporary medieval usage as a way to break through a reliance on anachronistic generic categories. It meant everything that Jean paved the way in his publications for this kind of inquiry and served as a role model. His advice and encouragement would continue to play a role throughout my career, including one especially inspiring meeting in New York City. I distinctly remember sitting at the bar at Café Con Leche at 81st in Amsterdam as Jean shared his knowledge of Kano Motonobu's Shuten Doji scrolls. I also remember being scolded by him when I revealed that I'd been cooking vegetarian collard greens. This deeply offended Jean's Southern sensibilities, and he made it clear that collard greens without ham hock were an abomination. I took the reprimand well, and I even delighted in seeing this colleague and mentor that I knew to be so kind and open-minded reveal a rare, uncompromising, completely inflexible opinion. Deconstruction and relational meaning have no place in relation to collard greens. So Jean, thank you so much for these memories, for all of your kindnesses, your professional support, and for your impeccable, thought-provoking scholarship. You leave a wonderful legacy for generations to come. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Melissa. What a great morning session.
Julie, can I show one more slide?
Oh, please, Melissa.
Very touching, Jean.
Yes, it is.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so why don't we get started with the second session, which I'm delighted to share. And like Julie, I am going to introduce all three speakers at once very briefly. First, we have Professor Ikumi Kaminishi, who is a professor of Japanese art at Tufts University. She specializes in emakimono, or illustrated hand scrolls, and recently has been publishing a great number of articles on the topic. Her focus is especially on Buddhist art, and recently paradigms of Buddhist upaya, or skillful means, a didactic method of helping others to enlightenment. In her book, Explaining Pictures, Buddhist Propaganda and Etoki Storytelling in Japan, which came out in 2006, she examined the roles of prophetic didactic paintings used for Buddhist proselytization. And today she's going to be talking about slaying demons in service of Kitano Tenjin. Our second speaker will be Professor Julie Davis, who teaches in the History of Art department at the University of Pennsylvania. She completed her PhD at the University of Washington, and she's one of the world's foremost authorities on Japanese prints and illustrated books. She has authored several books on this topic, including Utamaro and the Spectacle of Beauty from 2007, Partners in Print, Artistic Collaboration and the Ukiyo-e Market from 2015, and Picturing the Floating World, Ukiyo-e in Context, coming out 2021. She was also a guest curator at the Freer Sackler Galleries for an exhibition on Utamaro, and she's currently at work on two books, one concerning copying and forgery in ukiyo-e, and the second on early modern Japanese illustrated books, for which she was recently awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship. And Julie will be speaking on Utamaro and the City of Prince. Our third speaker today is Laura Mueller, independent scholar who completed her PhD at the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a dissertation entitled The Utagawa School, Continuity, Competition, and Collaboration in Edo Print Culture. Her publications and her expertise covers a wide range of Japanese art forms, both traditional and contemporary, and she's mounted numerous exhibitions. She's held positions as well at the Portland Japanese Garden, and she's been a prolific and successful independent art consultant and curator for more than a decade. Today, she's going to be speaking on death and memorial in the Utagawa School. So thank you very much, and I'm going to turn over the podium to Professor Kaminishi.
Thank you, Melissa, and good morning. Let me share. So, Jean, congratulations. Let me start. I'm going to read so that I should be finished in time. So, we all know the story of Minamoto Raiko and his retinue who vanquished the powerful demon Shitendoji through Jean's careful study of this title in his articles. My presentation concerns the legend of the sword that Raiko used to hew off the head of the Shitendoji. Raiko's mighty sword named Higekiri, or beard cutter, is said to be the famous sword that is now in the treasury of Kitano Tenjin or Kitano Shrine in Kyoto. Raiko and Kitano Shrine do not have any apparent connection, but the sword Higekiri does through a popular legend which gave this sword a moniker, Demon Slayer or Onikiri Maru. I have to be careful not to pronounce this onigiri. According to the mid-13th century Genpei Josuiki, a variant of the tale of Heike, the story goes like this. One night, Minamoto Raiko sends his retainer Watanabe no Tsuna on an errand to a northern part of the capital, and for precaution's sake, Raiko let Tsuna carry Higekiri. On the way home at Modori Bridge on the First Avenue, Tsuna meets a beautiful woman who asks him to escort her home. Tsuna, being a gentleman, obliges. In a block or two, she turns into a atrocious monster. Grabbing Tsuna by his top knot, she flies upward Mount Atago in the north. Without panicking, Tsuna frees himself by severing the Oni's arm with the sword, causing him drop straight down from the sky with Oni's arm still attached to his head on the ground of Kitano Shrine unharmed. According to the shrine legend, Tsuna donated this stone lantern as a token of his gratitude. This print by Adachi Ginko effectively visualizes the story where Tsuna is about to draw the sword in the air above Kitano Shrine, which is shown right at the bottom corner here. But there is no end to Oni lore in any ancient and medieval Japanese literature. As Jean points out, Oni represented the causes of various natural calamities or the irate spirits of the nobility who met untimely death, or resistant provincial forces, all of which were a threat to imperial authority. Komatsu Kazuhiko, the cultural anthropologist, lists three strategies to fend off Oni in his book Ikai. 1. Place Oni-repellent talisman at suspected liminal places. 2. Dispatch demon slayer, such as Raiko, to the Oni's den. 3. Deify an angry spirit as a kami. Tsugara no Michizane best exemplifies this approach. I argue there is a fourth formula. Let the deified Michizane, known as Dajo Itoken or Chancellor Awesome Deva, protect the vulnerable from the demons. With the lofty rank and title, this Michizane rules the Oni world. This scene from the famous 13th century Kitano Tenjin Engi Enaki depicts the thunder god throwing thunderbolts at Kyoto Imperial Court. It's a common belief that Michizane posthumously avenged his adversaries, including Fujiwara Tokihira, by taking the form of the thunder god. I rectified this misconception in my study of the 12th century text, on which this scroll is based. The thunder god is not but minion of the deified Michizane, popularly known as Kitano Tenjin. Tsuna is not the only historical figure, but the 14th century Haseo scroll tells the protagonist, a 10th century courtier, Kino Haseo, is also saved by Kitano Tenjin. Haseo one day plays a game of Go with me of Tsuzaku Gate in a beautiful woman that he wins the beautiful woman that Oni created. Haseo later helplessly watches the woman turning into water because he could not keep the promise with the Oni not to embrace the woman for 100 days. The Oni comes back at Haseo, but Kitano Tenjin's roar, although invisible in the scroll, drives the Oni away. The end of the story is curious, as the deity protects dishonorable Haseo from his acolyte Oni. I cannot help but the story was created so as to let Kitano Tenjin appear potent. It is a Tenjin propaganda. The rise of Kitano Tenjin cult in the Edo period helped produce numerous imageries of Tsuna slaying the arm of the demon. I'm showing you just a couple here. In conclusion, the medieval Oni lore conversely reveals Kitano Shrine's tacit agenda. I read these stories that function in service of Kitano Tenjin as the shrine's skillful means, or upaya, to aggrandize the worship of the deity. The concept of upaya derives from the Buddhist convention of helping others to enlightenment. By Japan's medieval period, the idea accumulated more versatile meanings and loose interpretations, ranging from bona fide attempts to awaken the unenlightened to telling lies to achieve any goals whatsoever. This is the central topic of my recent work, which I intend to continue in a monograph on the upaya of Japanese emakimono. My reading of Oni through the lens of Kitano Tenjin's upaya is part of this project, and thus Jean's works on Shuten Doji are the great source for this study. So thank you very much, Jean, and I hope you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you very much, Ikumi, and for showing us one of the many ways in which Jean's work can be built upon and taken in so many new directions. And now I'd like to turn over the virtual podium to Professor Julie Davis.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored and delighted to be here today and to have this few minutes to talk about how Jean's work has inspired me and so many others working in ukiyo-e studies. And I'll return in a few minutes to say a few words about Jean's essay on the print we're seeing here. But I'd like to begin today by thanking Jean for his mentorship of me over these many years. And I want to start by recalling that I first met Jean in the galleries of the exhibition Japan's Golden Age, Momoyama in Dallas in 1996, when I was still in the middle of what was the muddle of my dissertation. Somehow, Jean, I always remember talking to you in front of this screen, but I'm sure that wasn't the case. Somehow, though, that whole moment of meeting you in the galleries was transformative for me. Jean, as others have said, kindly asked about my dissertation, and he listened with care, and then he mentioned that he'd written a little something about Utamaro. About 2 days after I got home to Seattle, I got a call on the phone from Jean inviting me to continue the conversation about my dissertation, and later he asked if I would be the first graduate representative for the newly formed Japan Art History Forum, and that experience of meeting Eugene was really transformative for me, and also, this moment of founding JAHF was transformative for the field. So Jean also sent me his essay, and I remember reading it and thinking, wow, we must be kindred spirits. Jean then became an ad hoc member of my dissertation committee and read many rough drafts, always sending back kind but instructive remarks. I benefited so much from his insights then and ever since. So thank you so much, Jean. Today, I want to reread this essay, reading Utamaro's Unaccomplished. In it, Jean calls upon us to think harder about the act of interpretation and about the limits of what was then business as usual for the field of ukiyo-e. The essay was tactful, yet fearless, just like Jean. After opening with a close visual analysis of the print, Jean made this important point about the state of the field. He said, direct visual observations of this sort make up the entire basis for most Western viewers' experiences of this and other Japanese woodblock prints. He goes on to say that print specialists often bring in biography, connoisseurship, and subject identification, as well as historical notes. But then he goes on to add, such contextualizing, however, tends to remain on a general level, and detailed, thoughtful discussions of particular prints from any standpoint, but that of the connoisseur, remain extremely rare. The time seems right to explore the possibilities for more nuanced readings of specific prints or print series in relation to the circumstances that produced them. I hope to make a small contribution in that direction here. Jean then goes on to model in his essay just what such an interpretation would look like, recognizing that many viewers in early 19th century Edo would regard the print as a, quote, complex text and image combination, end quote. Jean reads the signature, publisher's mark, title, and narrative passage in context. Utamoto's name, with its references to poetry in the use of uta and to the poet Hitomaru in the use of maru, are rightly described as a claim to, quote, an aesthetic competence beyond that of mere draftsman, end of quote. The self-conscious use of hitsu or brush in the signature reinforces this assertion to mastery. Jean turns then to thinking about how the role of the publishers, who certainly made critical decisions about the content and appearance of many prints, as well, as he says. The series title, Kyokun Oya no Megane, with its references to moralizing treatises and social norms, to the parents and the penetrating vision of the signaled by the eyeglasses, and his reading of the subtitle, Fude Kashimono, as the unaccomplished type, all these become points of careful inquiry. Jean also took the challenge of translating this long passage, where the narrator offers critical assessment of both professional prostitutes and wannabe Casanovas. It's indeed a passage that criticizes both, but also includes many insider notes that he also decodes for us. So text and image are carefully evaluated with attention paid to the ways these elements related to and conferred knowledge, as well as replicated socialities of the time. Throughout, the essay balances what makes understanding this print and the entire set so challenging. What are we meant to take seriously, and what is being put forward satirically? How do we take on board the real weight of the didactics that are signaled by the term kyokun, the surveillance implied by the eyeglasses that the parents look through, and the rather ribald yet biting commentary? For Jean, each of these parts is explained and assessed, but kept open to further interpretation. The final piece of the text, the tattoo on the arm that the figure is trying to burn away, is recast against the descriptive to, quote, view her not with a gently compassionate gaze, but with eyes sharply focused to discover fault, end of quote. But here's the thing, as Jean writes, we have to ask of this print, quote, whose attack is this? There is no evidence ascribing the text to Utamoto or any other specific individual acting as author, end of quote. And he asks us to think further, quote, do we read its rhetoric as didactic, or as an ironic play with didactic forms, or as both at the same time, end quote. Indeed, this remains a question for this print, as well as for the additional 9 prints that make up the set, as I attempted to do in my book, clearly inspired by Jean. But little did Jean realize when he wrote endnote number 9 that this would be an inspiration for me. Quote, the issue of objectification and looking is especially relevant to the most important subject of ukiyo-e, women. Studies of ukiyo-e from a feminist perspective, however, have not yet appeared, end of quote. This small note verified for this feminist that it was time that Utamoto's work and ukiyo-e as a whole be brought into a critical analysis where gender mattered. Indeed, it was this footnote that helped me to be brave enough to put Utamoto's print like this one into larger taxonomies of sex and gender, inflected further by status, profession, and affiliation, among other things. Rereading Jean's essay, I find myself once more taking up arms in support of these methodological challenges. The essay reminds me once more of the precarious balance between image, text, and context, where we come upon intersections with cultural codes whose nature and relevance we can only partially reconstruct. How we read, how we think, how we imagine, how we put the work of art into context means also confronting the limits of our understanding. Yet by taking up the challenge to read closely and thoughtfully, we have the chance to try again, to re-encounter the image, to reread and to reread. Perhaps if we are lucky, we can become as accomplished as Jean in offering nuanced readings of images in context. Thank you so much. And I did not put a celebratory slide in at the end here, Jean, because I cannot even accept the idea that you're retiring. So congratulations anyway, but I refuse to accept it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Julie, for that fantastic presentation and showing us yet another way in which we should go back to Jean's work and reread it and reappreciate all that he's done. And next, our final speaker is Laura Mueller. Dr. Laura Mueller, please take it away.
Good morning on this very festive day. I am honored to be included with such esteemed colleagues to celebrate the career of Eugene Phillips. As a former student of Gene's, I decided not to respond to a specific piece of Gene's scholarship, but rather I feel his voice and insights can be seen throughout my dissertation that I accomplished under his direct guidance. His expertise and insight, along with his exacting way in editing, helped to hone my skills at making my arguments stronger and tighter, and his review of my translations clearer and more precise. As I thought about my work completed under Gene, I decided to touch on some themes in the second chapter of my dissertation where I can vividly recall Gene's advice and direction that informed my work. As discussed with others this morning, Gene's knowledge of Buddhist practice, portraiture, and the culture and language of death in the Buddhist context were areas that were invaluable to my work on the Utagawa School of Printmakers, and one of the largely overlooked practices that I address in my dissertation, the creation, marketing, and sale of memorial portraits or death prints, shinie, for major artists of the Utagawa School. These prints issued upon the death of the artist were the first and, in fact, only instance of the appearance in the Edo print market of commemorations for print designers and artists. Shinie had previously been reserved for popular stars of the kabuki stage, used to commemorate and memorialize the favorite actors, and in a few rare cases, kabuki chanters and musicians of the day. In commercial terms, Shinie provided an opportunity to capitalize on highly emotive events, the deaths of much-loved kabuki actors, or in this case, much-loved artists. The production of these artist portraits of the school helped to establish and disseminate, in an unprecedented way, a lineage and history of the Utagawa name that elevated this artist from simple craftsmen to a status closer to that of what Yukio Lippert has explored with the concept of scholar painters, which is concerned with the activities of the Kano school and its development of the Chinese-derived cultural ideal of the scholar painter, the Utagawa artists achieving within their urban milieu that the Kano school had in theirs. The compositions include many visual and textual markers that presented the artists as more than simple, low-ranked craftsmen working in the production of ukiyo-e prints. Simultaneously, the shinie provided marketing tie-ins intended to increase sales of many of the artists' most prominent and successful print designs, series, and illustrated books, further elevating the stature as popular creative personalities of the time. For the purpose of today, I would like to briefly address this one example of an Utagawa artist shinie, that of Utagawa Hiroshige. When Hiroshige died in 1858, it was felt to be a great loss to the world of ukiyo-e and prompted the creation of a memorial portrait by his fellow Utagawa school artist, Utagawa Kunisada. Kunisada's composition is grounded in the established visual vocabulary of simplified Buddhist memorial portraiture. The subject is posed kneeling on a cushion, dressed in a dark ceremonial robe, no shime, holding Buddhist prayer beads, and depicted with the shaved head of a Buddhist priest. At the same time, however, the role he played throughout his life is not completely neglected. The sleeves of his no-shime robe include the prominent motif of the stylized diamond-shaped artist seal called hiro, used by Hiroshige on his prints and painted works. There are multiple extant printings of this shinie, which suggest that it was enthusiastically received. Variations in the multiple print runs capture differences in inking and coloration. The text of Hiroshige's shinie emphasizes his illustrious lineage. The Yusai Hiroshige was a noted disciple of Toyohiro, who was a disciple of Toyoharu, the founder of the Utagawa school. The text then goes on to locate him firmly in the company of his fellow Utagawa school artists, while highlighting his mastery of landscapes and naming his most recent series and projects, many of which would no doubt still be readily available on the market. It states, at the present time, Hiroshige, Toyokuni, the name that was used by Kunisada at the time, and Kuniyoshi are considered the three great masters of ukiyo-e. Hiroshige always loved landscapes with mountains and water and created 100 scenes of Edo in 1856, in which you feel as if you were before the actual scenes. The text continues by praising one of his most ambitious series of illustrations for poetic texts, or kyoka, the 14 14-volume illustrated kyoka for famous places in the eastern capital, Kyoka Edo Meisho Zue, which was begun in 1856, the same year in which Hiroshige undertook the print series 100 Views of Famous Places in Edo. The Shinye exalts him, saying, he edited and illustrated the serial Kyoka Edo Meisho Zue. Readers of the serial books would be amazed by the excellence of his brush month after month. It comes as no surprise that the text portion of the memorial portrait was authored and signed by Tenmei Rojin, the professional pseudonym for Jingoro Takumi. Takumi was the celebrated poet of the above-mentioned serial work illustrated by Hiroshige. He signed the memorial print of Hiroshige with the moving words, text by Tenmei Rojin, brushed with tear-soaked sleeves. Memorial portraits of the leading artists of the Utagawa School were a carefully crafted product used by the school's members and associated publishers, not only to commemorate and memorialize them in an adoring public, but also to elevate the status of the artists and the school to one of the most celebrated artistic legacies of the Edo period Japan. The memorial designs were used to add luster and legitimacy to the school in an attempt to elevate their creative legacy to that of official schools whose members were firmly established as scholar artists. The artist's death was used as another, if not final, opportunity to further promote their vast output and bring increased attention to the print buying public. And now into close. I'd like to share one of my favorite photos of Jean. This is my Jean selfie from commencement. And I'd just like to say congratulations on your retirement, Jean. Your mentorship, guidance, friendship, and support, and wonderful sense of humor had a profound effect. I mean, not only in working with Japanese art, but as a human being. You genuinely care for your students, and I was a beneficiary of that. So thank you. All my best to you and Sayako for a happy and fulfilling next chapter. I look forward to meeting you again in person to share a cup of sake. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. I think we all feel the same way. We feel like Jean was our mentor, but you gave us very special insight into what it was like to have such a close mentor and someone who impacted your work so much. And thank you very much for sharing that work. And we are continue to be ahead of schedule. So we will take another 5-minute stretch break and we will return with some wonderful tribute videos for Jean. And then we will hear from Jean himself. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are going to show a tribute video coming right up, and it's really exciting. And get your tissues ready because it's also emotional to see all of the wonderful messages that Jean is going to get and we're all going to enjoy. So just to remind everyone, we'll listen to the video and then we'll have some remarks by Jean after that, but we will also have some social time at the end. So in that situation, you can let me know that you want to say something in the chat and then I'll call on people and other people can help me, but we'll just kind of try to keep it orderly. I see there are over 100 people that are with us, so maybe not everyone's going to get to say something, but we will do our best. Okay, so Melissa is in charge of starting the video.
"13 years ago, I received my first email from Eugene, which was to welcome me to UW after my interview. You were then Director of Religious Studies, and it was encouraging me to affiliate with Religious Studies. And throughout my career here, you've just been someone who's been a wonder to be in meetings with, who's always been a great colleague from when I was junior to now, always treated me with respect, and taught me how the system works at UW. And it's going to be weird not having you in meetings. We've been in meetings in many different departments together, but I look forward to still staying in touch and wish you all the best. And I'm sure you'll be happy to not be in meetings all the time, but congratulations. And I really want to thank you for being an amazing colleague and friend over these years. So congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, Jean, for everything you've done with the UW Odyssey Project for the past 18 years as our art history teacher. You've made art and art history and architecture come alive for over 500 students in the program now, including those who were told they weren't college material. You've helped students who've gone from being homeless to having master's degrees. And they all say that you helped open their eyes so they see the art around them, the artistry in themselves, and the art in their own family. You've shared your life, your multicultural sensitivity, and your passion for art history. So thank you, and congratulations on your retirement. I am glad you're not going to retire from Odyssey, but will keep bringing art alive for so many people in our community. Thanks, Jean.
I have many good memories of my time in Madison, but one of my highlights would definitely be spending the day helping you out in your backyard and then being rewarded with some fantastic steaks that you, Sayoko, and I shared. I just want to thank you for all that you've taught me, and more importantly for really making me feel at home when I was so far away from home. And I just want you to know that we will always be welcome here in Rome, Jean. Enjoy your retirement.
Hello, Professor. This is Yeji from Korea. Thank you everything that you did for us, and your teachings will always remain with us. Happy retirement. Thank you.
Jean, hello. I have wonderful memories of us having a cocktail together in New York sometime around the year 2002. What a wonderful afternoon. You know, when I was a graduate student, you did so much to create a sense of community in the field with all your work for JAHF. And you've been so generous to younger scholars, which has been meaningful in ways that maybe you yourself don't realize. So thank you for being such a wonderful colleague, and congratulations. And I look forward to our next cocktail together.
Hi, Jean. I have so many wonderful memories with you from our years together at UW-Madison. But I think the best was when I got to spend some time with you and Sayoko in Japan when you were on sabbatical. You welcomed me into your home and showed me all the wonders of Kyoto. It was a great time, and I treasure that. Your generosity, your help, your love for others, and the way you've traveled through the world. And thank you so much for this sake cup. My final words, keep on swimming, Jean. I love you. Bye.
I've had the great pleasure of serving alongside Jean Phillips in the art history department for the last 20 years. So it's hard to highlight just a single favorite memory of my work with Jean, but one amusing thing about Jean is his great knowledge of popular culture, and that's something I'm not always as knowledgeable about. And I do remember early on being introduced to Xena the Warrior Princess among Jean's many interests. I've enjoyed learning about Japanese art and culture from him, and on the strength of hearing a lecture from Jean and visiting Kyoto together, my 13-year-old son has decided to learn Japanese. So he's had a tremendous impact, a very kind and generous spirit in our department and campus. Thanks very much, Jean.
Hi, Jean. This is Keiko. Happy retirement, Jean, my sensei and friend. You are not only a wonderful advisor, but also an escort runner who helped me finish writing up my dissertation. And I'd like to really thank you for that. Hope you and Sayoko will have a relaxing time and visit me in Kyoto sometime soon. Bye.
Hi, Jean. First, many congratulations on your retirement. But it's also hard to imagine when we reassume a normal life in the fall. And go back to the department, we won't be able to hear your cheerful greetings in the hallway every day. I'm so grateful for all your support and mentorship since I started to teach at UW-Madison in 2013. Your kindness, wisdom, generosity, humor, and calmness have helped me tremendously in so many ways.
While it is extremely sad to think of the University of Wisconsin Art History Department without Eugene, Your groundbreaking legacy will surely remain profoundly evident in the years ahead. For me personally, it has been consistently both a joy and privilege to engage with you over 2 decades. Your commitment to the field of Japanese art and to the art history department as both teacher and leader has been inspiring. Your mentorship of both students and colleagues, often stilling rough waters with your genuine kindness and concern, has also taught me much too. Please know that without you at the helm of the art history department, I would never have been motivated to pursue the establishment of this professorship in Japanese art history that has now become an endowed chair. But I should also add that it is somewhat with an embarrassment as a still active and living person in the field to have my name in front of yours. But most importantly, I look forward to seeing your future ceramics and hopefully sharing some libation from one together. You will surely be an impossible act to follow.
Jean, I always thought we were partners in crime in the department, in that we always laughed, we made fun of stuff, we ate lunch and drank lots of coffee and tea. We liked the same things, i.e. ceramics. We loved the same guy, Frank Hurlbeck, even though I know I loved his pots more. But my favorite memory is us meeting at Passaquan in Georgia at a fabulous outsider art environment. It was really hot, but I do remember that I really think I heard a little Southern accent. Looking forward to having more time to talk Southern and all else. Bye.
Hi Jean, this is Joanne Skripczak sending you congratulations on your retirement from Cologne, Germany. I wish you an enjoyable and fulfilling time in the years to come, however you choose to spend them. I think the last time we saw each other was in December 2006 at my dissertation defense. At any rate, I'd like to thank you for helping make my years at the UW-Madison very rewarding. You helped create the type of environment that allowed us to stretch and expand our abilities while reminding us to keep our feet on the ground and to have fun. Thank you very much, and all the best to you and your family.
Congratulations, Jean. I wish you all the best in the coming years. You've made so many accomplishments, done so much for the field. We all really appreciate the efforts that you've put in on all of our behalfs. So as you go forward, I wish you, much happiness, much fulfillment, everything that you hope that it will be, I wish is yours. Congratulations.
Hi Jean, congratulations on your retirement. I'm Izumi Takasaki in Japan. I miss you and Machi-san very much. I miss your office where I visited quite often asking you many questions. You are always very kind and helpful. Thank you for everything and hope to see you again. Please take care and enjoy your life.
元気ですか？大学のお仕事が終わったらしくて、ご苦労様でした。たくさんの学生を育て、研究をして、大変立派でした。時間ができたらぜひ日本に来てください。うちの家族はバークレーの時代をいつも懐かしんでジーンの話が出ています。
Hello, Jean. John Carpenter here. As a member of the generation of Japanese art historians who watched with respect and admired and benefited from your leadership in the field of Japanese art studies, it's sad to hear of your retirement. But I congratulate you on the beginning of a new chapter of your career. I remember well the time couple decades ago when there were almost no tenure professors in our field, and you were a mentor to a new generation of scholars. You were also an early proponent of JAHF and served as one of its presidents, and we thank you for your efforts on that front as well. Good luck in your future endeavors, and all best wishes. Thank you very much.
Hi, this is Ayumi, Jean's daughter. One funny story that I wanted to share is that once I started knowing people that were going to UW and taking my dad's classes, he promised me that he would stop telling stories about me in his classes, since now I knew people and they knew me. But I am still finding out decades later that he did continue to tell stories about me. So happy retirement, Dad, and can't wait for you to come visit our lake house.
Greetings from New York. I have to move to another apartment today, in fact, so I am very sorry that I cannot join the celebration of Gene Phillips' career and contributions to our field of Japanese art today. Like everyone here at this festive occasion, I have had much to thank him for. It doesn't exactly begin with the Japan Art History Forum, but Gene's vision and leadership were crucial in establishing what is now the essential visual platform for everything from announcing lectures and job openings to discussions of current debates in the field. Gene's many publications and commitment to studying the practice of painting in late medieval Japan have been an inspiration for me. But what I am most grateful for is the constructive criticism he provided as an initially anonymous reviewer of my book manuscript on Rakuturaku Gaizu, Images of Kyoto, some 17 years ago. I think he knew that I was in a tough spot in those days, and he made his points firmly but gently, encouraging me to tighten up parts of the argument and make some of the citations more explicit, among other counsel that I have passed on to my own students since then. And when he came to give a wonderful lecture on the Shuten Doji scrolls at Columbia in 2007, just weeks after I started teaching here, he told me not to be defined by those tough moments in the past, but always to look ahead. For this, I am most grateful. Gene, a big thank you.
Gene and Sayoko were kind enough to let us stay at their apartment with them for a couple of days when we were visiting Japan in 2018. Ironically, Sayoko wasn't there when we first arrived, so it was Gene who gave us the lowdown on town and instructions on how to use the bus and the trains and the crucial information to never get in a tangle with a tiny ancient Japanese woman over a seat on a bus or produce. You will lose. Well, his incredible generosity just led us to a lot of wonderful places in Kyoto and around Japan that were inspiring and beautiful and gave us a little bit more insight into that wonderful country. So when we were with him one evening in their apartment, and I noticed he was wearing a stocking cap, I thought I would ask him, because of course I constantly ask Gene questions. Well, so what's the hat about? Is it some obscure Japanese folkway? No, explained Gene. It's because he's a tall guy. In Japan, every threshold was an invitation to danger for him, because they so often took a little bit of scalp with them when he passed through, because they just weren't quite right for him. The stocking cap was just to protect his head, give him a little padding, and prevent him from returning to the U.S. with a bunch of minor abrasions from lintels. Well, Gene, thanks so much for all of your information over the years, serious and light. I know that everyone else appreciates your generosity, as I do, and bringing a little bit of information about Japan to ignorant Midwesterners like myself, even at the danger of your own head. Thanks, Gene.
Gene, all of my favorite memories of you revolve around you displaying your honesty, your kindness, and humor. I deeply value the mentorship that you've given me over these past years, and I thank you for supporting and encouraging me as a thinker and a writer. I hope our next favorite memory together is when you announce me as I walk across the graduation stage. Best wishes and happy retirement to you.
ジン先生、長い間お疲れ様でした。バークレーで初めて会ったのがもう33年も前になります。英語の下手な私のために Alexanderの The Limewood Sculptors を一緒に読んでくれたのを思い出します。ジーンはとっても鋭く、論理的で、ちょっと皮肉屋ですけれど、優しく親切で柔らかくみんなを包み込んでくれます。お互い年を取りましたが、研究に定年はありません。これからも頑張ってまたいろいろ話をしましょう。
In the early 1990s, Jean and I were the only untenured faculty members of the art history department. We also had children the same age. Jean was such a good sport about playing with my daughter, especially when she was very fond of a game called Oh Rats. I have a vivid memory of Jean down in our playroom on the rug with my daughter, maybe Daniel was there too, and hearing cries of "Oh, rats!" coming up from the basement.
Hi, Jean. Andy Watsky here. My memory dates back to the year 2000. And I know that because I looked up for documentary evidence. I looked in my date book from that year. And on the 23rd day of June, it was a Friday, you and I met at 3 o'clock at Kyoto Station for a meeting and to explore this still relatively new building at that time. But the real memory is sitting down with you outdoors and having a conversation about tenure. I was still an untenured faculty member at Vassar. I think you had recently gotten tenure or certainly had experience with it. And what I remember was how incredibly warm and helpful and thoughtful you were. You offered me really good advice, sage advice, and I just want to thank you for that mentoring. I wish you the very best in the future, and I look forward to our paths crossing.
Hey Jean, Pippa here, coming to you from Woodstock, England. Can't forget meeting you all those years ago, although it's way too many to count. I don't think a single trip to Madison was ever complete without a tour of the department, a stop by your office, lunch at Paisan's, and a blow-by-blow account on how to make iced tea properly. And of course, many, many, many dinners at the professors. I think Frank would get a kick out of doing a video tribute to you. And although he'd have something very frank to say, I don't know, maybe a reminder that everything you've learned about running a department is what he taught you, or that you would have made a fine professor if only for your subject choice. He would be immensely proud to see the contribution that you made to the department over all these years. I'm excited for you. I'm so happy to be part of your celebration. Happy bird watching, safe travels, and my love to you and Sayoko. See you soon. Bye.
Hi, Jean. Congratulations on your retirement. It's a great occasion, I'm sure, for you to celebrate. I wanted to share a memory. I have many, but I think my favorite has to be when you definitively found the difference between Anna Andrzejewski and Nancy Rose Marshall, which inexplicably confused everyone when we were hired the same year and came in at the same time, even though we're very different people. Many confused us all the time, but you definitively announced, well, it's easy to tell you apart because Nancy is northern and scary and you're southern, and you never finished that sentence. So I'd sort of be curious, but the regional distinction was something that you certainly made clear. So I wish you the best. Thank you for your leadership and congratulations.
Hi, Jean. I speak in front of the Horlbeck Mirror and the Patriarch to salute your tall and enlightened stature. You've been a great presence since your arrival in Madison, as sensible and supportive a colleague as there could be, a professor loved and admired by students and associates alike. Of course, I loved it best when you called me boss when I was chair, but you've lent a helping hand to everyone in charge. You became one of art history's best and longest serving leaders, one of our most respected representatives in the university, in Asian and Japanese art, and in art history at large, and in the world beyond. You've always brought intelligence and fair-mindedness, a Solomonic, even terrifying wisdom to bear on all matters. Jean, congratulations on your stellar career, and all my love to both you and Sayoko.
Hi Jean, Ikumi here. Congratulations on your retirement, and thank you for your truly great contribution to Japanese art history. Remember, you came to Tufts to review my tenure document as the field expert. Thanks for your help. As you know, I got tenured and enjoy being a Tufts ever since. Now you deserve time away from school administrations and the demands from students. Enjoy your retirement.
One of my favorite moments that I remember about Gene, I recall him stopping many times in the midst of a lecture or class and talking about that ooh-ah moment that we want to look for and want to feel when looking at an object, when it just strikes us as, ooh, that's really cool. And those kind of moments continued to happen for me for many years, which is why I became an art historian and curator. Thanks, Gene. Happy retirement.
Hi, Jean. I'm going to miss you so much in the department. It was really such a pleasure to have you as a colleague, particularly as a professor just starting out. You were always there to calm me down, to fill me in on what was going on in the department in a way that made me feel really secure and supported. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I know you're going to have a wonderful time in retirement, but we are going to miss you terribly. And I hope we're able to see you in person at some point soon. Bye.
Hey, Jean, Paul and Russell here. Delighted to hear that you're finally crossing over to the other side. Having been on the other side for the past couple of years, let me tell you, it's not too bad. Not only is it not too bad, it's great. Look forward to seeing you here. Favorite memory of you? The best, I've got to admit, is that picture of you or the presence of you in a kimono. That was interesting.
Hi, Jean. Wishing you a really happy retirement. All the best from us and look forward to seeing you once everything opens up and we have some wonderful meals together on that amazing china. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful retirement.
Yes, the best of all, and best of both you and Sayoko as well. We look forward to seeing you as soon as we can. Got it.
Well, I don't know if I can talk without the musical accompaniment to it. It's very exciting tributes. Now I'm welcoming you back, and it is my pleasure to introduce Joan Mervis. She's known to most of us as the owner of the elegant New York Gallery of Japanese Fine Art. Joan was an art history student at University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm also delighted to tell you that she was also the lead donor in establishing the Joan B. Mirviss Chair in Japanese Art, which our guest of honor, Jean, now holds. This is so important for the future of Japanese art history. I know we keep saying this over and over, but we really want you to know this. And I'm thanking you and on behalf of everyone. So why don't you take it away, Joan? Want to unmute?
Thank you, Sherry. I thank both you and Melissa for all you've done to make this bittersweet occasion such a memorable experience for all of us here. It's with some emotion that I walked from my apartment to my gallery this morning on a beautiful, crisp day in New York City. And as I walked past the Alice in Wonderland statue, I was moved to see this Yamazakura tree, an ancient Meiji period, horizontally outreaching tree, my favorite in the city. And across from that is a beautiful southern magnolia. And to me, seeing the magnolia reaching over to the Yamazakura just felt so Jean-like. And as I exited the park at 72nd Street, I was walking by Mary Burke's former residence. And the irony of that coincidence became even more evident when parked in front of Mary's doorway at 3 East 77th, as you know, Mary was one of the great collectors of Japanese art, was a maintenance truck that said Harvard. So thank you, Melissa, that Harvard and Wisconsin and Penn and all of us representing universities across the globe are here today to celebrate our beloved Jean. So I've been asked to for the really very big honor to introduce Jean. I mean, after all of this, everything I say is going to be redundant, but I will do an introduction for our beloved Jean. So for me, it took nearly 20 years following my graduation in 1974 from the UW for the art history department to wake up and realize they needed to start teaching East Asian art. From the days when I was a student at the opening of the LVM Museum in 1970, the departments for Japanese literature, language, and history were very strong with faculty like John Dower and Akira Miura. But the history of art stopped east of Greece. And Jansen's The History of Art was the textbook of choice, and Asian art was clearly an afterthought. And even Julia Murray had yet to arrive. It was a wasteland. Jean arrived in Madison in 1992, having just completed his PhD at the University of California, Berkeley, where he also lectured as a graduate student instructor. There, he had focused his studies on the painting of the early Kamo school and the Yamato-e tradition on the paint. And these, of course, as you've heard, remained his principal interest ever since. 8 years later, in 2000, his important book, The Practices of Painting in Japan, was published by Stanford University Press. Kono Matanobu and his atelier Shuten Doji scrolls have been a further focus of his research, and Jean has published on them most recently, 2 years ago, in the Japan Review. Other scholarly articles and book reviews by him have been published in important journals such as Ars Orientalis, Archives of Asian Art, CAA Reviews, Artibus Asiae, Monumenta Nipponica, and the Journal of American Oriental Society. Jean has also contributed essays to scholarly books edited by our great colleagues, Melanie Treda, Arts of Japan, the John Weber Collection, and Liz Lillyho's Critical Perspectives on Classicism in Japanese Painting, 1600 to 1700. As a gifted teacher and raconteur, he has lectured in both English and Japanese at countless symposia and academic conferences that include Harvard, Gakushuin, Ritsumeikan, Columbia, Kyoto universities, and the universities of Kansas and Pittsburgh, as well as at AAS and CAA. An object-oriented academician, very important to me, Jean has also collaborated with the then curator of works of art on paper at UW, Andrew Stevens, who you heard from a few moments ago, on exhibitions utilizing the Frank Lloyd Wright assembled collection, now owned by the LVM or Chazen Museum, but belonged to Von Vleck. Jean has, of course, taught art history courses on an amazing array of topics that has inspired students for decades, from Art History 101 to surveys of Asian art and Japanese art, to higher level courses on ukiyo-e, Japanese ceramics, religious practice, monstrosity and Japanese visual culture, in addition to numerous graduate seminars offering using the resources at the adjacent museum. As a very much beloved figure on campus, Jean has always worn many hats, but forever with grace and charm. Giving back has always been important to Jean, and he has spent a lifetime doing so for the department, the field, and the community. He has served as chair and director of art history twice for a total of 8 years, and has took full command at an extremely rocky point in the department's history, steadying its course, and has kept the lines of communication between the museum and the department open at a very critical time. Throughout his long tenure at UW, Jean continued to take his responsibilities towards younger colleagues very much to heart, and notes that it has given him personal pleasure when hearing of the efforts that his impact on their careers made. And I'm sure listening to that tribute, Jean, the last 20 minutes, tears were streaming down your face. I can only imagine. Jean has served on numerous important campus committees and has been both director and chair of the Asian Studies and East Asian Studies departments. For nearly 2 decades, as we just heard, Jean has been a volunteer teacher for the Odyssey project, whose goal it is to help underprivileged adults overcome adversity and achieve important dreams through education. Most of us here today know that Jean has fought hard to promote the health of the field of Japanese art history, and perhaps most significantly into the future, served as the co-founder of the listserv that led to the formation of Japanese Art History Forum, where he served on its organizing committee. But for me personally, without Gene, I would never have made the commitment to fund the professorship in Japanese art history at UW. His kindness, support, generosity were critical for allowing me to make this decision. Having enjoyed the works since that time of seeing, actually being alive to see the benefit of having such a professorship at Wisconsin, not only on campus, but for the field, I was very thrilled to be able to, with a recent inheritance from my mother's death, and on a very personal note, today's the first anniversary of her death. It seems like everything is symmetrical today. I was able, with critical support from the Morgridge Foundation, to make the professorship into a full chair. It is, I believe, the only one, though, in the United States at a public university. And my hope and prayer is that through the decades, there will be thousands of students, including kids off of farms and kids from foreign lands, attending this world-renowned teaching and research institution that will forever be able to benefit from the teaching of Japanese art. It has been a special honor and a bit of embarrassment, as I said, but very much mixed with pride to have my name linked with his during this past decade. So it is my great pleasure that I present Gene Phillips to you, the first Joan B. Mirviss Chair of Japanese Art History at the University of Wisconsin. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan, for that very warm, kind introduction. I think it's my turn to speak now, and I will do it as long as I can.
It is your turn, Jean, and when you're done speaking, we have a special little thing to present, so just let me know when you're done.
Okay. So mostly what I want to speak to is gratitude. You know, beginning with the organizers of this, who I had originally approached hoping that I could bring them to campus, you know, sequentially or together as a kind of not so much a celebration of my retirement as of the passing of the Joan B. Mervis professorship, now chair. You know, something I'm very grateful and proud to have had for the, you know, last stage of my academic time at UW-Madison. But I'm even more excited because of what it means for the future of Japanese art history at UW-Madison, that it will continue and it will thrive even more. So when the job postings come out, please encourage the very best, you know, out there to apply for it, because it is a wonderful resource, and the very large good print collection in the Chase Museum of Art is out there. So, you know, to those of you who organized it, you know, I approached you, but it wasn't just to take advantage of your kindness and understanding. I had hoped to celebrate with you here, but then COVID struck and things changed. So thank you very much. I also have to say some words of gratitude to various people along the way. Mary Beth Graybill, who along with her colleagues at Berkeley were, if you were kind, you could say wise enough. If you were more realistic, you should say crazy enough to accept someone who'd been out of school for nearly a decade and had a degree in English Lit and had pretensions once upon a time of being a William Blake scholar. Went to Japan and everything changed. And of course, all the other wonderful mentors, you know, thank Julia Murray and her colleagues that became my colleagues in the department at the time. I'm sure she was a driving force in bringing me into the department, and I've always been very grateful for that. I've been so grateful to mentors in Japan, Tsuji Sensei, Kawai Sensei, whose video you saw earlier, Kobayashi Sensei, so many, you know, I could go on and on. Those of you in the field know them all. And yeah, and I can't go through naming everybody, but it seems like at key junctures of my life, there have been people and who have really made a difference, you know, and culminating with Joan, who just was kind enough to introduce me, who has ensured the Japanese art history will continue at UW-Madison. And That's really important to me and dear to me. I won't, go through and thank all the colleagues, not even the boss down there, because everybody has been very kind and very welcoming when I've been there. So what am I going to do next? I am actually still hoping to finally do that book on Kano Motonobu. But otherwise, I have a lot of household projects to do. I like working with my hands. It's an inheritance from my father. I can do basic plumbing, woodwork, electrical work, all these sorts of things. And I have a lot of that to do. Bird watching. There are some bird watching friends on here now, and I want to do that. There's the road not taken, which was being a potter. I actually have made pots before. I even sold some long ago. So I'm actually hoping to put a wheel in my basement and do that. And finally, I think, though I'm not 100% sure, I want to start my own website for a kind of more casual venue for sort of sharing writings that we aren't quite sure this is, something I want to go through all the labor of getting shaped up for publishing in a journal, but just shorter pieces, that other people in the field might be inspired to take further, but which sort of are, not our main interests. I have a number of those that I did and never really published. So no, there is, no way I can possibly show my gratitude to everyone, but everyone who's here today, I'm really, really grateful. I've been near tears a number of times during the tributes and so forth, but I'm so glad I made it through this. So thank you all so much. And I have gone flipping back and forth, looking at everybody, in the gallery here and appreciating your presence, even if I don't have the time to acknowledge everyone. So thank you really very, very much. And really look forward to, somebody else moving into this position and really carrying forward at UW and in this department and hopefully being a leader in the field. Oh, I did want to say one other thing. I get a lot of credit for being one of the founders of JAHF. And I did, I was the one who started out on my own email saying, okay, I'm sending out, to 15 people whose email addresses I had and saying, have whoever who's not on this list, please have them contact me. And slowly the JAHF website built up on my own email list. And that was so interesting and so much fun. And we went through that whole period of deciding, what was this all going to be about? But I have to acknowledge that Louise Court did a lot of the hard organizing work for the official. I got the fun part. And she, got people together to do the legal work and all of that. So a lot of credit to Louise for that. So anyway, thank you all very much. And yeah, I'm hoping to see you all here, Japan, elsewhere. I'm fully vaccinated now, and hopefully all of us will be fully vaccinated, and travel will be, at least by next spring, will be much more possible, if not sooner. And I really hope to see a lot of you everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we have a special guest, Dr. Yuhang Li, who's Associate Professor of Chinese Art History at UW-Madison, and she has something to share with you. So if you could unmute.
Yes, yeah. Hi, Jean. Congratulations again on your retirements. So can you open the box that I delivered to your place yesterday? So while Jean is opening the box, I just want to say a few words about this gift. So this is a gift from the people in Chinese art in the department. So we want to thank for all your mentorship to me and the students in Chinese art throughout these years. So we want to use this gift to show that your legacy will be also carried by the students from China, Taiwan, and Korea. So so this painting was created by Tong Su. When you open the painting, I will say a few more words about
I think he's going to hang it up.
Okay, okay.
Ooh, and Jean, when you come back, you can unmute.
Yeah, so we create this lineage portrait to signify your transmission of knowledge and artistic training. I realized that we're now inverting the Japanese tradition where the master presents a portrait to the students, but we feel that this inversion expresses Jean's own virtue of humbleness, since he always made us feel as if we are co-creators of knowledge and learning. Yeah, and so we provide the English translation of the most inscriptions, but there's a poems created by Ji Wang, who's from the Asian department. He's well trained in classical Chinese. He actually created these classical Chinese poems, but we didn't translate. We leave some puzzles for you to solve during your happy retirement years. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yuhong, and thanks to everybody, all of your students. That's
thank you. Yeah. Mm.
Is that your portrait there?
Yes. Yeah. So
okay, now I can see it on the screen. That's really exciting.
And there are also logo of UW-Madison, the badges. So Tong, the graduate students in Chinese art, but she was trained as illustrators. I hope in the future, we didn't have chance to have it mount properly, but in the future, maybe we can remount it. Yeah.
It's wonderful the way it is. Thank you so much. Thank you really so much.
Wow. Well, how about we unmute and give you a real round of applause, since we can't do it. Everybody can unmute and I'm seeing the faces. Okay, so it's social time, and I'd like to invite people to talk. If you want to send a chat or raise your hand, we can try to call on you. Maybe somebody who has not said something already in the video would like to share. I'm not getting a message quite yet.
I see Maria's hand up.
Oh, good. Maria.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. Jean, thank you so much for being such an amazing colleague for over 21 years. And all those Japanese painting rotations with the few Japanese paintings, and thanks to Joan, some more. So I really appreciate your collegiality and mostly your wonderful friendship. You and Sayoko and Tom and I too have had the pleasure of your guidance in Kyoto and our real first introduction to Japan. So hopefully many more visits to come, and for inspiring our young son's love of Japan and things Japanese. And I think he's working on something for you, but that will come. So again, Jean, thank you so much for wonderful times together and for your use of the collection and really activating that part of the collection. So I hope that also continue, not just in the area of Japanese prints, but in all of the areas of Japanese art. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
I can't see everybody's hand. Oh, there, Brian, how about you? You can unmute.
Yep. Hi, Jean. On behalf of docents past and present, as well as senior guest auditors, of whom there have been many in your classes, I just want to thank you for helping us to understand Asian art, in particular Japanese art. I have a small collection of woodblock prints that I've had for years. And, it's one of the key collections of the museum, the Asian art, and I think it's underappreciated personally. I would like to see that expanded at some point in time. But, you've been a fabulous contributor to my enjoyment of my retirement, and I know for many. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Brian. The one thing I didn't say about my retirement is now I can become a senior guest auditor.
Great.
And who knows, I may show up in the dinosaur course or I've threatened Jordan to sit in on his religious studies classes. There's a lot I want to know, and I can become a student again. I always have been, but a student in different areas, a wide-ranging areas.
I think you might be encouraging us to jump ship and join you in retirement. It's exciting.
You know, it's a funny thing. I've watched people ahead of me sometimes struggle with the idea of retiring, and then they do, and they said, oh my God, it's like a permanent research leave. So Julia's nodding her head. I mean, I love teaching, you know, I love teaching. I love mentoring younger colleagues, as you no doubt have noticed. I am a font of free advice, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But and you know, I will miss the teaching. I'm glad I'll be continuing with the Odyssey program and so forth. So, but yeah, I will enjoy, I think, just sitting in on some classes. Not so much in my own department. It would be too probably embarrassing for my colleagues, but you know, who knows?
That's great. Louise, you're here. I can read your chat, but if you could unmute, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add my congratulations to Gene and wish him all the best for that time in the basement with his potter's wheel. I can't wait to see what comes spinning off of that wheel, Gene. Having recently enjoyed interacting with you at Joan's gathering celebrating Nezumishino, and learning that was your favorite Japanese ceramic ware. Hooray. And it was a joy to be with you in Dallas in 1996 when the idea of JAHF first emerged, and to watch it unfold and to see it be such a strong and positive effect for our field. And I think the warmth and generosity of this morning's meeting is testimony to the strength of the field, supported by JAHF and many other aspects of what's happening. And I wish us all the best as the field of Japanese art history, joining all our Japanese colleagues and European colleagues as well, goes forward. Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to have a celebration of JAHF, and I think I was on one of the early email lists, and I thought, who's this man and what is his name? And I saw Jean at CAA, and I saw your name tag, and I walked up to you and like, well, who are you and why are you doing this? You're just such an inspiration. I can't tell you, and I would really like to pass off the speaking baton to somebody else, but I'm not finding a volunteer quite yet. So I might just take over the class and start calling on people.
Well, the other thing, Sherry, is that sometimes happens at these events is we have a little gentle roasting. We've heard already that there are certain ways to make collard greens and iced tea. I wonder if there are any other funny Jean stories that we could share right now.
I have a few.
I knew you would, Julia.
Okay, go, Julia.
Oh, let's keep this totally above board. So Jean, being from the South, would turn up 15 minutes early when invited for dinner. I being, well, I'm sort of from the South, but the northern part of the South had learned that you definitely don't come earlier than 15 minutes after the time of the invite. So it took us some getting used to, but Madison was a very laid back place and we all kind of rolled with it. And actually the Southern connection brings up one other very happy memory, which is for a few years, the few of us who claimed to be from the South had a Southern dinner once a year. And for a time, the big dean of the College of Letters and Sciences was also a guy from Georgia. So we had some wonderful times, but then he stepped down from that role. And I don't know whether Jean and Ann Smart Martin and Henry have continued this tradition, but it was really great. I mean, the collard greens were as they should be. Okay, I'll stop.
Well, as to the showing up early for dinner, which he always did at my house too, he came and he promptly said, well, let me set the table. So he went about, and Jean did not know how to set a table. So I straightened him out in that respect. But Jean, other than that, I'm glad that both you and I have remained stalwart during this wonderful tribute. And I wanted to toast you appropriately. And I wanted to bring greetings from my sister Nancy too, because since you hosted both of us so nicely in Japan, and let's continue to remain stalwart during this wonderful occasion. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. As probably many of my colleagues know, if you spend a sabbatical in Kyoto, there's a great likelihood that you will be entertaining people, but it was wonderful. I did actually really enjoyed. And when you have colleagues who are deeply interested in art and art history, who don't know much about Japan, suddenly you look at things with a kind of new rebirth of wonder. You know, I'm a big fan of the Lawrence Ferlinghetti poem, I am perpetually and forever awaiting a rebirth of wonder, and which marks me as being a certain age, by the way. But, you know, sometimes it's just good to be taking people around and hearing their oohs and ahs, and you realize, oh my God, I'm just taking all this wonderful stuff for granted nowadays.
I also wanted to seize advantage of this format to say hello to my student Joanne in Cologne, since I can save money this way.
I have a, sorry. Hi, Susie.
I see Jennifer's hand up.
Yeah, I just one of my favorite memories of Jean that I didn't put in the tribute is when we first arrived here. Of course, we didn't know anyone, and Jean always made me feel really welcome and calm. And one of the ways that he did that was by inviting my husband to go to the movies with Jean and Drew. And so I don't know if you remember this, but you all went to the movies. Jean apparently insisted that but Jean wouldn't get popcorn and had to be there early. And so Mark referred to your outing as the Wolf Pack. So he referred to you both as his Wolf Pack in Madison. And that was just such a special way for us to feel, this is a friendly, welcoming place. So it was a very nice memory.
Thank you. You probably are getting the notion that I tend to appear early at things. It's kind of true, and I'm notorious about movies. The idea of being late for a movie terrifies me, and I have strict rules with everybody. I've loosened up though, Jennifer. I've loosened up.
Oh, Mark loved it because I'm always late for everything.
Ugh.
I know.
That works well in Japan when you're early.
Yeah, you wouldn't fare too well in Cairo, Jean, I have to say.
When I taught English to foreign students who wanted to go to college when I was living in Seattle, we would sometimes have parties. And at a certain point, all of our students were either from the Gulf area, you know, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, or Venezuela, or Japan. So the party would start generally about 7, and me and all the Japanese would show up probably 5 minutes early. And then slowly the Arab students would start drifting in. And maybe if you were lucky, about 10 o'clock, the Venezuelans would show up. And of course, none of the fun really started until the Latin music went on and the dancing started. So you had this long period, you know, so you learned a lot about cultural differences just by being an ESL teacher, as I was for quite a long time.
May I tell another anecdote?
Oh, please do.
I think I mentioned that Jean and I had offices side by side for I think he moved at the very end, but about 20 years, we were side by side. So I was very familiar with his habits. He's a morning person. So I think he would get up at about 5 in the morning and he would walk in. He would always be at his office, you know, early, like 8 o'clock or something. But that meant that he had a sort of early afternoon downtime. So he literally would curl up on the rug of his office, shut the door, and we just knew not to knock. For what, a half hour, Jean? About 40 minutes, something like that. I always admired, you know, the way you were able to just kind of do that and not be embarrassed about it or self-conscious. And meanwhile, I'm a night owl and I had exactly the opposite kind of schedule. So it was really very, very complimentary relationship that way, I guess.
It was. We got almost the entire clock covered between us.
Definitely.
Yes, I am a famous napper. I come from a long line of nappers. My grandpa was a champion, and some of my fondest early memories are sort of napping with him on his front porch, sort of lying on his stomach when I was very small. And so I learned at an early age the fine art of napping. But as Julia said, I was there early, and I just got worn out by it.
Yeah, you got your second wind that way, so it worked well.
Yeah.
Oh, just imagine if we were out at a bar and we'd be having our celebratory drinks with you, Jean. This more and more stories would come out, and you'd be crying and laughing. And I think Melissa wants to say something.
I hate to put her on the spot, but I was wondering if Sayoko would like to say a few words. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her, and of course, feel free to pass.
She may pass.
Okay.
Would you like to call on anybody else, Melissa?
Let's see.
Yeah.
Surely there are more people from the department that have a few good Jean stories.
How about Nick Cahill?
Hi, Jean. We're going to meet you down at the end of down at the old people's end of the office of the hall. And yeah, Jean called me when I was after I graduated, and said, there's a job opening up at the University of Wisconsin that you should apply for. And I thought, I'm not an art historian. I could never apply for this. I do classics. And he said, oh, go ahead and do it. And so he's really, I just am so grateful for him determining the rest of my life and bringing me here and to this wonderful place and being such a calming presence throughout. And one of the, Jean has this way of making everything sort of doable, easy, not getting ruffled. I mean, you think of all the crises that the world and the department and the state and everything has gone through since, over the last, however, God knows how many years it's been since we've been here. And throughout it all, Jean is the one who says, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. And just, being the person who brings sanity to a world that doesn't have very much of it it's been a real privilege to be with him for all these years and to know him. We were students at Berkeley together, of course. So it goes way back then. And thank you, Jean. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to be, and we will greatly miss you, but I hope soon, now that everybody's vaccinated and we can all go back to partying, that you can show up early again.
So I have to say something, a couple of things. This is more like a roast of Nick coming up, I think. But
I'm turning off my video then.
No, so I did indeed call and say, apply, etc. But the then chair of the department, who was only an interim chair, from the moment she saw Nick's application, he was the one. And we had several candidates visit campus. He was the only one she invited, along with me and somebody from the classics department, over to her house about 2:30 in the afternoon for a get together with scotch.
With scotch too.
That's right. There was scotch. And of course, I think that Nick said, well, got to come to Madison. If they're serving scotch at 2:30 in the afternoon, that's not too bad. So
that was Barry Powell who came, and he'd just come in from ice fishing, and he was wearing some felt shirt that was like a quarter of an inch thick. And here we were drinking scotch, and he was sweating and I mean, yeah, that was my introduction to Madison. It was freezing.
I have to point out, I was not invited to this scotch occasion.
Anyway, so yeah.
Just as well.
But that calmness has been, such a model, taking everything just it's going to be fine.
I have a theory on that. Jean must have very low cortisol levels.
This is a theme that keeps persisting, and so I can't deny it. In fact, one of my former colleagues declared that I was the Xanax of the department. So
we need that desperately, though, Jean.
Well, it's your job from now on, Jennifer.
We're all in trouble if I'm the Xanax of the department, but I'll try. I'll do my best.
But I gotta say, there was that one time where you Xanaxed me, right? Because someone had made me uncomfortable. And then you came by like a day later and you were like, I'm willing to take that Xanax back. Is there a real problem? You weren't just like calming me down in some like gendered way. I really appreciated that. But actually, it really helped when you calmed me down. So thank you.
I also overheard a few, I don't know, 1 or 2, 3 occasions when untenured female faculty were crying in your office, Jean. You must have had a very calming impact on them.
We are who we are.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, in regard to JAHF, since so many people in the field, and I see Frank Chance there. When it came time for me to take a sabbatical, and I really didn't want to continue being the JAHF list moderator, Frank kindly took that over, and for a quite a few years was the moderator and kept it going. And I think that was a critical juncture, taking it into the next level of sort of being an official, very official and well-organized list.
I want to thank you eternally, Jean, for dumping that nice load of work on me, which turned out to be it was very important to me at a time when I needed to feel more like a part of the field and less isolated. And so actually, thank you for getting me to do that and for letting me be your successor as the moderator of the JAHF list.
Jean, that was very sneaky the way you kind of called on somebody. So if you would like to do that again.
Oh, I don't think I need to do that. I mean, I think everybody is probably getting a little bit of Zoom fatigue, and there's no real reason to force people to stay online longer. We should let people get on with their mornings. I mean, if anybody is here from the West Coast, you started at 6 a.m. with this, and I have a special gratitude to you and people in Japan. For Shimao-san, it's what now, midnight?
Yeah, it's 12:22, so it's tomorrow.
But you're a night owl.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and
so
now I'm on. It's April 17th here. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm glad the festivities could carry over into a new day for Jean.
Oh yeah, 2 days celebration.
Yeah, about that. Well, is there anybody else that would like to? Andy would like to say something.
Yeah, I just want to underscore one thing that's come up and the real importance that Jean has had at a time, for example, I brought up the point that I was untenured when we had that meeting at Kyoto Station, and I remember it very vividly. That was a time when the field, I think there was a feeling of unsettledness in the field. And as a junior faculty member at that time, it was very important to have, even though you're not that much older than me, Jean, in fact, but you were the kind of person who really helped people like me who were junior to feel as though this, I had a future, and maybe that's part of the Xanax effect, but to calm the field and allow people to feel as though they had a place in the field. I feel as though, Japanese art history now in the United States is doing quite well. There's, so many people in so many positions doing so well. It wasn't always that way. And I think, underscoring that idea that, Jean, you really did have an important role, I think, in mentoring many of us. And thank you. It was back then, it was more of an unsettled time, and you helped to, I think, settle it.
Well, I'm kind of thankful I got my job and could stay there before all of this bunch of incredibly talented people came into the field behind me, and I thought, oh my God, this, the people who came in after me over the next several years, decade, I just thought, wow, the level of talent, skill, intellect, our field is in really good shape. And I am very proud that through some mentoring and being on tenure cases and working really hard on reviewing tenure cases and writing decent letters, which not everybody in our field did, that I could do what they deserved. Not, it's not that I was doing something for them. I was doing something that they deserved and that the field deserved to keep it healthy and make it grow into an even healthier thing. So that's probably one of the things I'm proudest of. But I was just the right person in the right place, sort of at a juncture. And all my young, I keep being tempted to say junior colleagues, though they're all senior faculty members now. But when you get to be my age and you're just about to retire, it's sort of, oh yeah, my junior colleagues. That one of the reasons I happily go into retirement is the field is in really such wonderful shape, thanks to them and all that they have done and achieved.
That was a really modest way to say that, Jean, but I think, didn't you write a tenure letter for just about everybody there is? I mean, this is all secret, right? But we kind of figured it out, and I am so grateful. And I see you someplace, I go, oh, Jean, thank you. And you, oh no, you deserved it. It was so nice. And what a thing to say. I don't think anyone will ever say that to me. You're a calming presence on the field. You're the voice of sanity. Really, as Andy said, you rescued us from a very difficult time, and everybody is just so grateful. Me too. For everything that you've done. And I think it is time to close our event. And I probably shouldn't have the last word. You want to say one more thing, Jean, to give us more inspiration before you go out the door? We know we haven't seen the last of you.
No, I don't really have much else to say. I really do just want to thank the organizers, the four of you who organized this and made it happen. It means I have to stop.
Thank you, Jean. And thank you, UW-Madison, for all that you did to put this together. Jordan and team, you've made it look like a wonderful place to work. And I'm sure you're going to have a wonderful list of applications when the time comes to carry on Jean's tradition. Jean, the first thing on your blog has to be that Shinso portrait. I think we all want to see high resolution and a deciphering of its inscriptions. And thank you, everyone, for coming today.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're going to have to say goodbye, but I'm glad we were able to squeeze some tears out of Jean.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jean.
I was fighting them back any number of occasions.
Okay.
Thank you,
goodbye.
Jean. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.